On guys, I have not started my NBA off-seasons series, but this is my, I guess you could say, priorities. I do my NBA off-season the day the NBA draft lottery happens. Like that night, I'll post so much NBA off-season. I just like having the draft there so I could actually make correct predictions about the draft and everything else. But these are the priorities. We'll talk about, free agency and their salary cap for the Detroit Pistons. We'll also talk about, just basically an off-season cheat sheet for y'all. Shout out to Marlo Alter, the Detroit Free Press, for some of the information I'll be using in today's video. Like and subscribe if you're a Detroit Pistons fan. I am not a Detroit Pistons fan. I'm just an NBA fan, but I do like what they're building there. And look, the Detroit Pistons could be one of the big players in free agency. But this franchise has a few decisions, okay? First off, are they going to trade, keep, or extend Jerami Grant? And they have potentially a top 7 pick. They also have a chance of either keeping Marvin Bagley III on the free agency restricted tender that he's on, or they can just extend him long term. And now that they have, the cap space, could they identify a top free agent and see what it goes? So it all starts on how Jerami Grant's situation plays out. That will probably affect their draft plan and the free agent process. And it all will be complicated with the pick. Because look, the Pistons just completed their worst 3-season run since 1981 and have an NBA record of 14-game postseason losing streak dating back to a 2008, okay? So, look, this future of the franchise, I think, is good. Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, good. Kellyan Hayes, starting to look like he's developing. And they got young talent. The draft is looking up. Free agency looks good because they have the capital spend, a lot of flexibility on the roster, and the front office has made several good-looking moves. And look, next year, the goal is obviously to be competing for a play-in spot, which means being ranked somewhere between 7 and 10 in the Eastern Conference. Cade Cunningham will only be 21, and building around him will be definitely what they have to do. But taking shortcuts to win quicker could lead to derailing the plan and, could screw the franchise up. Remember, Blake Griffin. Look, the NBA draft right now, they have 40% chance at a top 3 pick being slotted at the number 3 spot with a 52.1% chance of getting a top 4 pick. So right now it's looking, and they have a 14% chance at the first overall pick. So their targets, guys, are going to be Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, Jaden Ivey, and Keegan Murray. I believe Keegan Murray, Paolo Banchero, or Jabari Smith should be their targets, unless Chet Holmgren fell. I doubt it. But yeah, so look, and in free agency, the targets for them could be, Zach LaVine. I don't think James Harden or Kyrie or Bradley Beal are going to do anything. I think DeAndre Ayton's going to stay. But Miles Bridges, maybe Zach LaVine, but I think Miles Bridges could be a guy that they could target. But again, you don't want to take the shortcuts. Rodney McGruger is a free agent for them, and Corey Joseph has a player option. Corey Joseph could accept it, or you could decide to go to a contending team and decline it. But Marvin Bagley, restricted $7.2 million qualifying offer with a $28.3 million cap hold. So that's something to think about. Team options for Diallo, Frank Jackson, Carson Edwards, and Luka Garza. I expect all of them to have their team options picked up. And the Pistons, look, they have, expiring contracts after the season. So Jerami Grant and Kelly Olynyk are under contract for next year, but they expire after next season. And they still are technically paying DeAndre Ayton, Dwayne Dedmon, Zaire Smith. That's crazy. Zaire Smith's out the league. So with that being said, they have about $59.9 million in guaranteed salary, which leaves them about, going into free agency, about $20 million in free agency if they use $10 million to bring back Marvin Bagley. So only 5 teams are projected to have significant cap space: Orlando, Detroit, San Antonio, Indiana, and Portland. So this is a team that could make a splash. And the Pistons could create more space by trading Grant. And for example, by doing that, they could create, a similar, if they trade to the Blazers, they could get a $21 million trade exception that the Blazers got for the CJ McCollum deal. So with that being said, I really think you got to look at this team, and I think going into the draft, this is a team that, Grant is eligible for a 4-year, $112 million deal, but they should entertain deals because they could get, a lottery pick for Jerami Grant, or at least a first-round pick, in my opinion. And again, Bagley's shown he's worth a longer look at a reasonable cost after the Pistons only dealt 2 future second-round picks for him at the trade deadline. He's shown positive play during his 2 months, and everybody's talking positive about him. So I think they'll bring him back, and it seems far more likely than not that he'll be brought back. And, they have a lot of cap space. So I've heard Jalen Brunson is somebody they want, but Diallo is somebody I think Diallo and Frank Jackson both bring, unique skill sets. Diallo's an athletic defensive guy, two-way player, potentially Frank Jackson's developed into a three-point threat, and they're both only going to be 24 next season, and each on a reasonable salary they can bring back. And then you have Garza, who's turned 24, and I know he only played 12.2 minutes per game in 32 games. He could be the third backup center, on this team that they could develop for, cheap. I think obviously trying to get a big fish like Miles Bridges or Jalen Brunson would be awesome. But, there's guys like Gary Harris, who's 28, and he could be very cheap for them. And he's kind of the prototypical 3-and-D wing. And I know he's 36.3% three-point shooter. And this year he's shot at 38%. He's had some bad seasons. But, hey, he could fit perfectly next to Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey. Then you have Isaiah Stewart and Marvin Bagley at the front court. I think that's pretty good. What are your thoughts down below?